I'd like to explain to you what court-ordered mediation is like. When that happens, you probably hired lawyers, and so the first thing that happens is your lawyers have to agree on a mediator, and that can take some time. Then, because one of the things to keep in mind is your lawyer's always suspicious of the other lawyer and the other party. That's what lawyers are trained to do. They're trained to be suspicious of other people. So if your lawyer suggests somebody, the other side isn't going to want that person because they want to suggest somebody else because they think the other lawyer and the mediator are friends. But anyway, at some point you agree to a mediator. Then you have to schedule a date. So you get a date scheduled. That can take a lot of time and a lot of legal fees too. But the day of mediation itself is very different. You'll go in and sit in a room with your lawyer. Your spouse will go in and sit in another room with his or her lawyer, and the mediator will go to each of you separately and tell you about the process, tell you what's going to happen that day, and then find out what your story is. What do you want? Why do you want it? Why shouldn't the other person have whatever that person is going to want? And then the mediator tries to develop an offer that she or he is going to go into the other room and present to the other side. So then when the mediator has that offer, the mediator goes into the other room and goes through the same process, explains the process of mediation, lets you tell your story and all the things you want and things that you think are going to be a problem. And maybe in each situation, the lawyer pipes in a little bit. And then the mediator presents the offer to you. You don't like that offer. Nobody ever settles on the first offer. And think of it as kind of like buying a car. It's kind of like buying a car. So you don't give in to everything because you know that they don't really want everything that they're saying they want. So you go back and forth all day. The mediator going back and forth, back and forth. At some point, the mediator is going to say, I need to talk to the lawyers without the clients. So then the lawyers and the mediator go into another room. And since I'm one of those lawyers frequently, I know what happens. Maybe the two parties don't know what happens, but I can tell you what happens. The lawyers and the mediator start talking about what they really think it's going to take to settle the case. And they maybe confess a few things about the weaknesses on their side. But basically, the lawyers and the mediator all come to a place where they all think they know what needs to happen for the case to settle. And then the lawyers go back to their separate rooms, and the mediator once again starts going back and forth. And the lawyers spend that time trying to convince you, the client, what you need to agree to in order to settle the case. The mediator is graded, so to speak, or evaluated based on whether he or she settles the case. So all the mediator cares about is settling the case. The mediator isn't there to want it to settle a certain way. They just want it to settle so that they can promote themselves as settling cases. A mediation like that is going to be very, very expensive. So just think about it for a minute. You're paying your lawyer somewhere these days between $350 to $500 or $600 an hour. Let's say it takes a whole workday. So you're looking at 8 hours. $250 an hour, which you don't get anymore. That's $2,000 for your lawyer that day. Your mediator is going to charge somewhere around $1,000 to $1,250 per person. So somewhere between $2,000 and $2,500 is just for the mediator. So if both of you spend $5,000, each of you spends $5,000 on your lawyer for the day, and it'll probably be a lot more than that because I don't know any lawyers right now who do this for only $250 an hour. And if your mediator is the $2,000 mediator, even at a minimum, you're looking at $6,000 just for that one day. And more likely, if you've got a lawyer that charges $400 an hour, that's $2,400 for each lawyer. And if the mediator is one that charges $1,250 a person, that's $2,500. Now you're looking at $7,500 to $10,000 for one day of mediation. And I can tell you from experience, you can go to trial for less than that. You can go have a trial. The judge isn't going to give you 8 hours. The most a judge is going to give you is 6 hours. And that's for both of you. So that's 3 hours for you and 3 hours for your spouse. that's why you don't get to tell your story in the courtroom, because you're on very limited time. And most judges consider 6 hours a full day. And that's because they take into consideration breaks and objections and all the things that happen when you're in a trial. Versus what happens if you come to a mediation the way we do it at divorce mediation centers. First of all, you're not paying a lawyer. I'm not saying you can't hire a lawyer. I actually have had people from time to time bring a lawyer to mediation. I don't advise it simply because I know that lawyers actually make it more difficult to settle the case because they're all about winning. And so they want to make sure, however the case settles, their client gets everything they wanted. And that's just not the way mediation is supposed to work. So let's say you come to mediation and you don't hire a lawyer, which is recommended by me. The only professional you are paying is the mediator, me, or some other mediator in our company. Our mediations range between $2,500. We don't charge by the hour, we charge a flat fee. And it ranges somewhere between $2,500 and $5,000. And where you fall in that range depends on whether you own a company, whether you own a house, whether there are retirement accounts, and whether there are children. Those are the primary factors that will cause the mediation to be more or less expensive. And for us, it's a flat fee, and we prepare your documents, all the documents you're going to need to start and finalize your divorce. So your mediator isn't just mediating. She's also helping with the other aspects of getting divorced. You are representing yourself, and that may sound scary, but it happens all the time, and it happens a lot because people can't afford lawyers. And those people, when they go into the courtroom, they're considered what we call pro se parties. That's a Latin term, pro se, and that means you represent yourself. And when parties come into the courtroom as pro se parties, judges can't tell you what to do. They have to treat you like they would treat a lawyer. So you can't go in there and have somebody instruct you on what to do. If you come to mediation with divorce mediation centers, we give you instructions on exactly what to do, what to say, when to say it, and how to get through the entire process from start to finish. And judges like that. They like that somebody comes in, even if you read the script. We will give you a script, and you can stand in front of the judge and read the script. Now, one of the good things that came from COVID, judges found out that they could get agreed divorces done a lot faster if they didn't make people come to the courtroom. So now some of the courts, and many courts, in fact, let you file what's called an affidavit that contains all the things that you would be required to say if you came into the courtroom. So we at Divorce Mediation Centers help you with that affidavit, and we help your spouse file what's called a waiver. And that waiver is telling the judge that this person agrees to what's happening, that they've signed the decree and they're in agreement with what's in the decree, and both of you will have signed the decree. And all of that goes to the judge electronically. We have electronic filing here in Texas now. When the judge looks at all of that, everything's there that the judge needs to sign that final decree. So you never go to the courtroom. There are some courts that will require you to go to the courtroom. Most courts don't even require that. If they require a person to come in person, they'll do it by video conferencing, and you don't even have to go to the courthouse. If you're doing it through litigation, you're going to spend a lot of your time at the courthouse, and your lawyer is probably charging you for going to the courthouse, travel time, the time in the courthouse, and travel time going back to the office. So mediation through divorce mediation centers will cost you somewhere between $2,500 and $5,000, very much depending. The factor that very much controls how much is whether you own a business or you own a house. Those things affect the cost more than anything else. And whether you have children also affects the cost of the mediation. And whatever you pay, whatever the fee is, voted by the mediator, is it. That's all. You don't have to pay any more. You're not going to get a call saying, well, we spent so many hours on this that we're going to charge you more. That doesn't happen with divorce mediation centers. You know going in what it's going to cost, and you know going out that that's all it costs. So come see us. Let us help you do this in a way that is very effective and a lot less expensive.